Martin Perez is returning to the rotation tomorrow. I'm going to tell you what it means for the rotation and why it's a good thing on today's episode of Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every single day. My name is Ethan Smith, bringing you your news, analysis, and opinions about the Pittsburgh Pirates every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am, of course, a lifelong fan of the Pittsburgh Pirates and bring that fandom to you every single day. Hopefully you all enjoyed the episode yesterday where we talked about Luis Ortiz and all of the great things that he did en route to another series victory for the Pittsburgh Pirates over the Cincinnati Reds to bring them within 2 games of 500 again at about the halfway point. We'll talk about the halfway season thoughts later today, who's hot, who's not. We're going to talk about Ryan Borucki and Quinn nearing their returns and some more news around the Pittsburgh Pirates. But of course, we're starting today's show talking about Martin Perez, who will be returning from the IL to face the Atlanta Braves tomorrow to kick off that series, which we will also be talking about on tomorrow's show. And Martin Perez coming back is a pretty big deal. This rotation has been the talk of the town and really the talk of even national media throughout most of this season, due to the great play that we've seen, obviously, from guys like Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, and, of course, Mitch Keller, who may be en route for another all-star appearance. Even Bailey Falter has had quite the run of things so far this season, but they've kind of had an issue with that last spot in the rotation, seeing as Quinn Priester's been in and off the IL. We'll talk about that later. Seeing as Martin Perez has been on the IL, Marco Gonzalez has been on the IL, and they don't really have a ton of options in AAA right now that I would think are ready to come up. You can make an argument about Braxton Ashcraft. You can make an argument about Domingo Germán, but there's a lot of other things going on in that scenario. With Martin Perez, though, for instance, I mean, you look at what the guy was doing when the season began, and he looked really good. He was a guy that I wanted the Pirates to desperately get in free agency. I even called for it pretty much right after the season ended when I found out that he was going to be a free agent after kind of getting buried in that Texas Rangers rotation, which was a very strong rotation and eventually led them to winning, of course, a World Series last season. And he got off to a hot start. He had a very good outing against Miami, had a 2.97 ERA in the month of April, but then May came along and you kind of saw the struggles kind of flare up for Perez. He had that big blow-up outing against the Milwaukee Brewers where he gave up 11 hits and 9 earned runs. He then kind of bounced back a little bit, even though they were in short outings against the Atlanta Braves and the San Francisco Giants, where he only allowed 3 earned runs across 7 1/3 innings. But then, of course, he went to the IL, did not play the rest of May, really has not played at all in June either. And we have been patiently awaiting his return, because one big word that I think you can use for Martin Perez coming back to this rotation is that you're finally going to have a little bit of continuity in this rotation again. The bullpen games, I don't think you're going to really see them at all anymore with Perez coming back, and then we'll get into that a little bit more when we talk about Borucki and Priester later. But now it also opens it up for you, and a lot of you may have noticed that the 3 pitchers going this weekend are, of course, Perez, Skeens, and Falter, which is an interesting decision considering Jared Jones last pitched on Saturday against the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe they're giving him a little bit of a break. Obviously, pitching near the most that he's ever pitched as a professional, and you don't want to throw his arm out. If you want guys like Paul Skeens and Jared Jones to be available later in the season with the biggest workload that they've ever had in their baseball lives, then you want to make sure that you can do that. And getting Martin Perez back can do that. I spoke a lot about that in the show yesterday with Luis Ortiz and what he can do to kind of help this team be able to give guys like Jared Jones and Paul Skeens that extra day of rest that they may need every once in a while. Now, obviously, there is another off day, I believe, in between this series. I don't remember if the Cardinal series next week is a 4-game set or not, but you will definitely see Jared Jones in that. But yeah, it's not a bad thing to give guys like that rest, especially seeing as Jared Jones has never really went over 150 innings in his career. Paul Skeens has clearly never done that either. Mitch Keller just did it last season. So it is a good problem to have when you can have a guy like Martin Perez who has done this before. He's had heavy workloads across his career. I mean, you look across his career and the amount of innings that he's thrown. I mean, as recently as 2022, he threw 196 innings, 141 in 2023, 114 in 2021, 165 in 2019. So this is a guy that throughout his career has been a very steady presence in whatever rotation he's been in and been able to operate throughout the entire season. You're also going to get that if you get a guy like Marco Gonzalez back, and it'll also help Quinn Priester, who again we'll talk about later, where you're getting continuity in this rotation again. And that's a big deal because this rotation right now is one of, if not the biggest reasons why the Pittsburgh Pirates are in the position they are. They are a top 5 unit in quality starts. They are a top unit in ERA. They are a top unit in strikeouts. They are a top unit in WHIP. They are top in a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. You have the 2 rookie phenoms in Jared Jones and Paul Skeens who have continued to flash their brilliance in every single outing that they make. You have Bailey Falter, who last season was a guy that a lot of people wanted gone right off the rip, even going into this season, and he's been a steady presence in this rotation as well. And then you, of course, have Mitch Keller, who has done phenomenal things this year also. Now, the biggest question that you can ask yourself is how will Perez perform when he comes back? I think you can expect a little more of kind of in the middle of what he was doing between April and those last 2 starts that he had in May. He's usually always going to get you at least 5 innings. This year, he actually went 6 innings quite a bit. He went 6 innings 3 different times or more in his first 3 of his first 6 starts of the season, of course, in April. And then in 3 of his 5 starts in May, he went at least 5 innings, including that blow-up start against Milwaukee. So you know that he's going to be a guy that's going to be steady. You know what you're getting from a guy who's 33 years old and has been in this league for a very long time. I mean, career-wise, he's thrown 1,498 innings and has a 1.45 WHIP and a 4.45 ERA. As a back-end starter in a rotation that has been very good this season, you'll take that kind of pitcher. And I think that it's a very good thing that Perez is coming back because, again, you're going to actually kind of have a structure back in the rotation. You're not going to have to throw Carmen Mlodzinski or Josh Fleming in a bullpen game anymore, which in turn will help the bullpen stay fresh. It'll help the bullpen stay healthy, and that unit will finally be able to start realizing some of its form. Also, something we talked about last week on this show, where the bullpen has started to kind of flash some brilliance a little bit. Now, obviously, David Bednar is on the IL, and you may be getting somebody back in Ryan Borucki who can help supplement a lot of those things. And if they can figure out that middle relief, or truthfully just eliminate it altogether by getting these quality starts on a consistent basis from your starters, in turn, that's going to result in wins. That's just what's going to happen. And that's the kind of pitcher that Martin Perez is. He's going to always remind you of kind of a Tyler Anderson type or a Rich Hill type or a Jose Quintana type, where you know that you're going to get 5 or 6 innings every outing. He's going to probably allow 2 or 3 earned runs every outing, but he's going to keep you in the game and hand it off to the bullpen and hope that the bullpen can hand over the game as well. And especially at the offense, which we saw really spark in Cincinnati, if that offense can start being a consistent beast, then you're going to start seeing all these puzzle pieces kind of come together. And that's what you want to see. If the pieces can start coming together, especially going into trade deadline time, which we also talked about yesterday, as I keep plugging all the other shows that we've done this week and even into last week, you start realizing that this team has the ingredients to be a good baseball team. They just need everything to gel together. That can go from health, that can go from performance, that can go on a lot of different factors, but getting Martin Perez back, he's going to perform. He's going, hopefully, to be healthy for the rest of the season. And at worst, he becomes a long relief option for you outside of what he's been able to do this season. That gives you even more flexibility to not have those measly bullpen games or have those games where you really struggle and say, oh my God, we need 3 or 4 innings of work from the bullpen. You could get that from a guy like Luis Ortiz now. You could get that from a guy like Bailey Falter. You could get that from a guy like Martin Perez. You could get that from a guy like Hunter Stratton or Kyle Nicholas, who were former starters. The pieces are starting to come together, and that's a good thing. And now that we're at the halfway point already, and it feels like the season literally just started yesterday. I mean, this season is flying by, but tomorrow will mark the halfway point of the season. What are my halfway season thoughts? Who's been hot? Who's not? What's going right? What's going wrong? We're going to discuss all of that in just a moment here on the Locked On Pirates podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Pirates is brought to you by Tax Network USA. Go to tnusa.com/lockedon right now, because here at Locked On Pirates, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team. Whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs, it's a year-round thing. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garner your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. So call 1-800-549-1000 or visit taxnetworkusa.com/lockedon. You can see the link below in the episode description. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. They have millions of parts for your MVP, and you can win every time with parts that fit your ride, because passion, drive, and patience are the formula for winning championships, and also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has got you covered with everything, and with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. And folks, don't forget to check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network and the 24/7 streaming channel of Locked On Sports Today, bringing you the news and analysis that you need from every single local host of Locked On every single day. And also, don't forget to check Pirates games on Sirius XM. If you're on the go, still listen to Pirates games over on Sirius XM and be in the know as what's going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I always do that here on the Locked On Pirates podcast. My name is Ethan Smith. Follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates. Shout out to KSI for Prime. I love some Prime energy. Helps me out a lot. And folks, we're almost at the halfway point. The Pittsburgh Pirates, as I mentioned earlier, are a 39-41 baseball team, fully involved in that crazy NL wildcard race that is going on right now. Not completely out of it in the NL Central, but the Brewers are a tough out right now. They're going to have to pull a lot of ground to pick them up. And you go back to last season, and at this exact time, they were 38-42. So they're one game better than they were last season. Now, to some of you, that may be bad. And to me, I would like it to be more. There are a lot of reasons why this team could be an above 500 team. There's a lot of reasons why this team could be exactly 500. You would like the offense to be performing a lot better than it has. The pitching staff has done a very good job. We've had moments with the bullpen as well where you would like the bullpen to also be a much better unit. With all that tied together, you look at who's been hot and what's been going right for this team. And I kind of mention it all the time, and I've mentioned it quite a bit on this show already, that so far this season, the starting rotation has been what's carried this team. It truthfully has. It's a unit right now that truthfully has just been very good. You look at pitching right now, and you look at overall ERA as far as teams are concerned. Overall ERA, even including the bullpen, the Pirates are 15th in baseball right now in ERA. It's a good thing. You look at wins. They're up there in wins right now, I believe. Yeah, they're 16. So they're about middle of the road in some of these things. You look at whip right now. They're a very good team in terms of whip. They're about middle of the road, 16th in baseball. So you're starting to see things now kind of all come together where they're a middle of the road team, even in their spots that they're good. And even in innings pitched, they're 11th. So they've pitched a good bit this season. And you look at how things have went for them as far as pitching is concerned, and that's good. Now, batting, as I mentioned, which has been kind of the bad thing, the Pirates are 26th in baseball in batting average and RBIs right now. Definitely a unit that's a lot better in that department. They're 19th in runs batted in. Stolen bases is an interesting one as well because they're not really a plus stolen base team. They're 22nd in baseball right now in stolen bases, but they've been very efficient in that category, a category that I would like to use a lot more with that team. You have guys like Andrew McCutchen who are still more than fast enough. There we go. I was trying to figure out the right way to really word that to steal. You have guys like O'Neal Cruz. You have Sawinski when he gets on base, if he wants to get on base. And in on base percentage, they're 26th. In slugging, they're about 28th right now. So all spots that you would like them to be a lot better in. They're 28th in OPS. You would like those things to be better. You would. And eventually, I think that those things will improve. And if you heard my early trade deadline thoughts, I do think the Pirates are going to add something at the deadline, especially if they are indeed in the wild card race, which it would be very hard not to be right now in the wild card race. And I think that they will go and add. Now, is it going to be the big names that you really expect them to go add? Probably not. It's not going to be the Luis Roberts or the Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s or the Pete Alonsos of the world. I just don't think that they're going to go out of their way to trade their ample farm system to go get guys like that. And truthfully, I don't think they need to go get guys like that. And you individualize it down as to what's going right. And you have guys like Brian Reynolds, who's in the midst of the longest hit streak in Major League Baseball right now at 23 games. You look at O'Neal Cruz, who's had a good run of things as of late. You look at even Nick Gonzalez, who has come up since May 10th and been a very good option for this team. Even Connor Joe, despite falling down a little bit, has been a very consistent hitter in this order so far. Then you go to pitching. David Bednar has done really well since his early season struggles. Colin Holderman should be an all-star. Aroldis Chapman has been a lot better than people would suggest. You look at even Hunter Stratton and Kyle Nicholas have shown flashes of what they can do in the bullpen. Then you have Skeens, Jones, and Keller, who have been that three-headed monster in the rotation that is going to keep the Pirates really in any game whatsoever. So there's no doubt that this team is going to change when the trade deadline comes around and through the second half. We saw that last season, and they had a very good second half of the season last year to get to that 76 and 86 final record that we saw. Now, you obviously want them to be better than that this season because, truthfully, they are a better team with more talent. It's just a matter of feeding into that talent. So can they get to a point now where all the puzzle pieces start to come together? You go out and get some additions that you think can really help this team in areas of need that you need it, like center field, like first base, like catcher, like middle relief. If you can go out and patch those holes, which they can do, and other teams will also be trying to do in this wild NL wildcard race, then the Pirates have a real shot. I mean, they're 2 games clear of Cincinnati right now. They're 2.5 clear of the Chicago Cubs right now. Almost 3. So you break all this down and you say, okay, they're about 2.5 back of the Cardinals, who they'll play next week. And then you go to the wild card. They're 2.5 back, only behind San Diego, the Mets, Arizona, Atlanta, and St. Louis. These are not teams that are formidable to the Pirates. They can beat any team. They've already done it this season. They split a series with the Phillies earlier. They've beaten the Braves in a series already. They've beaten the Dodgers in a series already. They've beaten the Reds in every series they played them so far. They've beaten the Cubs in a series. They can do this. They are a team that has the tools to do it. So when you think about how things are going at the halfway point, there's obviously positives. There's obviously negatives. But that's what you're getting when you're talking about a team that's 2 games under 500 and has flirted with 500 for the better part of the entire season. So with all that bundled together, this is a team I think that is going to figure it out. Now, am I saying they're going to be a playoff team? Not by any means. They are a team that could easily make the playoffs. They're a team that could easily do that and easily not do it. That's just the kind of team that they are. But it's a matter of, do they go out when it comes around to the trade season, which is coming up, and go get pieces to really go for it? Or do they think we have the tools to really do it in 25? That's going to be the big decider here. But with that rotation of Skeens, Jones, and Keller, especially if it stays healthy and it stays fresh, which they're doing everything in their power to do, as we're seeing, as evidence of this weekend with the pitchers that you're going to see, this is a team that's going to be in it until September. And until they change my mind on that, I'm going to keep saying it on this show, because I think I say it just about every day. And there's things that are right. There's things that are not. It's a matter of fixing the things that aren't going right internally and externally, and it'll make the summer and the end of the season very fun. The Pittsburgh Pirates, as far as injuries are concerned, should be getting Ryan Borucki and Quinn Priester back pretty soon. How will that affect things? And we'll talk about some more general thoughts about the team in the final part of today's episode in just a minute. Today's episode of Locked On Pirates is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. With summer travel heating up, especially for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn about. Yes, we're talking about even your rival cities, with hotels, beds, and breakfasts, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball's rival city. I always loved going to different baseball stadiums, and one time I went to Minnesota to go see Minnesota play the Tampa Bay Rays way back when. So from hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com or on the site or in the Booking.com app. Whatever fits your fancy, Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Try the LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon, because the LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals, and show you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial, and let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. And thank you to all the sponsors of the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, every single day. And your Pittsburgh Pirates should be getting some guys back here pretty soon. Of course, Ryan Borucki and Quinn Priester are who we're talking about. Ryan Borucki, who's been out for a good portion of the season, pretty much the entire season this year, and was a big component to this rotation last year, should be making his return pretty soon. He is starting a rehab assignment in the minor leagues. It would be a massive addition to get Ryan Borucki back, and Quinn Priester as well. Quinn Priester has given the Pirates a couple of good starts this season, gave the Pirates a couple of good starts last year, has had his blow-up moments, but he's a younger guy. I've always said that Quinn Priester, I think, is kind of following the mold of a Mitch Keller type, where it's going to take him a little bit longer to kind of figure things out. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Quinn Priester will be starting tonight for Indianapolis in AAA. So that's a big deal for us as Pirates fans, because you'd love to see Quinn Priester come back. And he actually, as I'm recording right now, just had a 1-2-3 third inning and struck out Dylan Cruz and James Wood. So Quinn Priester having a pretty good start of things right now, pitching down there in Indianapolis. Meanwhile, as I mentioned with Ryan Borucki, he's definitely another bullpen option that you like to have back. I mean, you look at him last year, he was very good. You like to see what you saw there, and currently on the 60-day, but started his rehab assignment last night with AAA Indianapolis. You want to see Ryan come back. You want to see him be a very big component to this team. You want to see the bullpen kind of gain that continuity that I was talking about before. It's a unit that desperately needs it, and David Bednar hopefully isn't going to be out for all that long either, and you're suddenly going to start to see all those pieces that we talked about in the offseason that would make up a top 10 unit as far as the bullpen is concerned. You could have Colin Holderman. You could have Aroldis Chapman, David Bednar when he's healthy, Ryan Borucki when he's healthy. That's already 5 options that I think you like. Then you throw in Luis Ortiz, you throw in Hunter Stratton and Carmen Mlodzinski, and you suddenly have a pretty good rotation that doesn't include guys like a Dalton Jeffries or guys like a Dennis Santana or guys like a Justin Brule or jump scare Ben Heller. So that's what you really hope to see. That's what you want to see from those guys. As far as everything else is concerned, obviously the Pirates will face the Atlanta Braves this weekend in a 3-game series. The Braves 44-34, the Pirates 39-41. We'll dive into that series a lot more on tomorrow's show. Obviously, after that, you'll go into a big series against the St. Louis Cardinals and then, of course, the New York Mets, a team that the Pirates are just behind in the wild card standings. So next week will be a big week for the Pittsburgh Pirates as well. As far as other things are concerned, you really hope that Ke'Bryan Hayes can start finding some offensive firepower like he had last season. Brian Reynolds has just continued to be a menace in the month of June, as he has historically throughout his entire career. So you hope that that continues. And really this team, as I keep saying, folks, it's a team that can be very frustrating at times, but it's also the funnest team that we've watched in a very long time. It's a team that has the potential to be a wild card team. It has the potential to be in the race at least throughout September. So just stick with it, have fun with it, and always tune in to the Locked On Pirates podcast, because we're talking about it all the time. Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates every day. My name is Ethan Smith. Follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates for all of your news, analysis, opinions, and reactions to everything going on in the world of the Pittsburgh Pirates. You can find the show on YouTube and all of your audio platforms. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday afternoon and evening. We'll see you tomorrow. But until then, see you on the flip side.